These days, it seems like our money is disappearing right before our eyes, despite the same amount of spending on groceries every month. We find that their weight in bags dwindles with each passing day due to rising costs. Petrol prices climbed 58% and beef shot up 21%. But what exactly is driving such high expenses? In this video, explore 10 potential causes behind these exorbitant prices. From food production issues to global economics, so you can have a better understanding of why everyday goods are becoming more expensive by the second. 10. Inflation. Inflation can be an intimidating concept, especially when it affects the cost of everyday items, but what many people don't realize is that inflation affects much more than simple groceries and other items. It impacts flight tickets, credit card charges, and even ticket prices for basketball games. When a country experiences a rise in inflation, its citizens are faced with an increase in their cost of living. Suddenly, items that once could be purchased for $20 now require $40, yet there's no change in quality or quantity. It can feel desperate and fearful to face extraordinary increases in the cost of living, but understanding what causes inflation is critical in navigating through these tumultuous times. 9. Government regulation. Over the past several years, debates have raged over whether government regulation is counterproductive to economic growth and prosperity. While proponents of deregulation often argue that a free market system will create more opportunities, critics contend that it can also come with extreme risks. The increase of inflation due to tariffs on importers and exporters is an excellent example. By charging importers more in order to move goods both in and out of the country, these new laws can cause an increase in the prices of commodities for everyone else. This may seem like a small price to pay for governmental oversight, but it can have substantial effects on households and businesses who are already struggling. It is clear that government regulation sometimes causes inflation, something policymakers should bear in mind as they debate further restrictions on trade. 8. Change in exchange rate. Understanding the complexity of the foreign exchange market can be a confusing process at its core. The forex market involves exchanging one form of currency for another, depending on the relative values between two currencies with each other. Thus, when there is an increase in exchange rates, it affects how much goods and services cost by increasing their prices. The implications of this system are wide-ranging and far-reaching, from affecting businesses to costing consumers more money. Interestingly, currency fluctuations can also create unpredictable opportunities for investors who know how to capitalize on changing exchange rates. Therefore, it is important to take time to familiarize yourself with the ever-changing dynamics of the foreign exchange market to ensure you are making sound financial decisions. 7. National debt. The reality of national debt is much more than just an abstract concept or scary statistics. When a government takes on debt, it must think of how to pay it back. This often means seeking loans with high interest rates and cutting back spending, which can leave citizens feeling the pinch. It may seem like national debt has no direct effect on you, but there are actually many hidden costs. Allowing a government to take on too much debt can result in increased taxes and lower public services, leading to fewer job opportunities and decreased wages. In addition, a rise in inflation could emerge as governments need to print more money as they take out more loans. National debt sucks, and most Governments around the world will agree, but don't be fooled into thinking that you are immune from its effects. 6. Expanded money supply. An expanded money supply can often spell trouble for a country and its economy when the money supply is larger than the economic output of a country. It is like having 500 people bidding for the same antique piece of art at an auction. There will not be enough to go around, leading to vast inequality and deplorable living conditions. It quickly becomes apparent that this kind of economic imbalance can have severe consequences, including increased poverty levels, weaker purchasing power, and a decrease in investor confidence. Understanding these risks, it is critical to tread cautiously when expanding the money supply and strive for an economic balance that benefits all citizens equally. 5. Rising wages. Rising wages can, at first glance, appear to be a cause of worry and be counterintuitive. Yet it is an indication of growth in most economies. With higher wages comes more financial power for people to purchase goods and services. This naturally leads to an increased demand, which manufacturers and suppliers have to bear the brunt of. It is indeed true that this can result in inflation when demand outstrips supply. However, moderate inflation is not necessarily a bad thing, as it is often associated with thriving economies. Looking closely, rising wages come hand in hand with economic development. Therefore, governments should take steps to ensure wages remain reasonable and in line with productivity levels. For shrinkflation. Shrinkflation is a term we have grown so familiar with in recent years. It refers to the process of decreasing the size or quantity of a product while still selling it for its original price, and this phenomenon has become increasingly prevalent within the food and beverage industry. This practice might sound sneaky and underhanded, but it is not illegal, as companies are still required to provide complete information on its packaging regarding weight, size, and quality. This is something which they often do knowingly, carefully hiding their deceit behind a veil of deception. It is no wonder then that consumers have grown increasingly wary and distrustful of companies who engage in such tactics. This is why it is essential for businesses to remain honest and transparent when dealing with their customers and strive to provide value for money. 3. Hoarding again. During the pandemic, we were acutely aware of how a single controversy could lead to devastating consequences for human health. Hoarding essential products such as face masks created upheaval and anxiety of epic proportions. What made the situation even worse was that hoarding is a strategic process undertaken by individuals or entities wishing to capitalize on the increased demand for products when they have been made scarce. Although it's impossible to measure all the losses caused by this unethical practice, there can be no denying that hoarding starves people who are desperately in need of supplies, leaving them vulnerable and powerless in an already dangerous situation. To prevent this from happening in the future, governments and organizations should take a stance against those who engage in such activities, ensuring the availability of essentials to everyone throughout any crisis. 2. Demand pull. Over the past few months, there has been an immense amount of pressure on the market due to a rise in demand caused by the end of the pandemic. All sorts of goods, from gasoline to hotel rooms and travel tickets, are now in higher demand than ever before, but sadly, supply seems unable to keep up. This is creating shortages, leading prices to skyrocket at alarming rates, with more people requiring items but not enough being available. It is clear that we have a serious issue on our hands that must be fixed quickly before more individuals are left without necessary, yet increasingly costly, resources for daily living. It is essential, then, that the government steps in and regulates prices while providing incentives to businesses that increase production. 1. Cost push. Cost push inflation is a reality that affects consumers in many ways, from the prices of goods and services to the availability of certain products when companies have to spend more money than usual to produce a product, bring it to market, or even cope with natural disasters. These costs are passed on to the consumer, who must pay more for the same product. Natural disasters such as floods, tornadoes and hurricanes can cause significant price spikes in certain foods and supplies due to the fact that crops are destroyed and items become more difficult to obtain. This type of cost-push inflation is particularly challenging during times when income levels may not be able to keep up with rising prices of necessary items. Ultimately, this increases financial strain on millions of people around the globe as they struggle to make ends meet. We must recognize that there are a variety of factors contributing to rising prices and other challenges in the food and beverage industry. While some of these forces can be difficult or impossible to control, it is important that governments and organizations work together to mitigate their effects as much as possible. Consumers must also remain vigilant, avoiding unethical practices such as hoarding and being conscious of how cost-push inflation can affect their ability to purchase daily necessities. In the face of these challenges, it is key that we all take responsibility for our own actions and support those affected by rising prices in any way that we can. Only by doing this will we be able to ensure a secure and equitable future for us all. But wait, there's more. To thank you for sticking with us until the end of this video, and because we like saying thank you, here is a bonus. Imported inflation. Imported inflation can cause a considerable amount of distress and hardship among those living within the affected country, as prices continue to rise and purchases become increasingly expensive. Although imported inflation can be difficult to predict, it is especially treacherous when coupled with an ever-dwindling currency value, with the global price of products and services constantly on the increase. Countries that have not taken steps to protect against rising costs are at risk for exorbitant pricing on imports. Consumers will inevitably feel the effects of this inflation, as their hard-earned money buys less and less with every passing day. It's no wonder there is so much panic surrounding imported inflation. Its effects are unrelenting and profound. If you're looking for more information about the economic challenges we're facing due to rising prices and imported inflation, be sure to subscribe to my channel.